Right. Let's see if there's anything I can get my hands on right now. I want to get a gaming handheld if that's even possible. This can't be right. Why are handhelds so expensive? I'm seeing stuff from like £300 minimum. A retro handheld is going for what? Almost £300 as well. This can't be right. How is this the norm? What about the Switch? Switch 2, let's check. And to even get one, almost £400. Insane. This can't be real. Now I want a game, but I don't want to spend too much money getting a game. Use market perhaps? Nah. Although the PSP isn't a bad shout. Yeah, let's look into the PSP. And that's what I did. I bought myself the PSP in 2026. And you're probably asking, why did he buy a PSP when he got the 3DS and the Vita? Well, there's two reasons why I bought it. One, I grew up with the PSP. I had the PSP Street, which was only available in the UK at the time. And I obviously bought 3DS, a couple months ago. And obviously I had the 3DS growing up. So I thought, for nostalgic reasons, I get that sort of thing. But my other reason, that's three reasons. I don't know why I said two. My third reason is the fact that it runs so smoothly. And on the Vita, the games don't look as good and as crisp as when it plays on the PSP. So it's kind of like a no-brainer sort of thing. So I thought I need to get some games. I'm not going to mod it. I modded my 3DS and my Vita, which were fun. But in terms of modding my PSP, I don't see myself doing it. I want to collect games and play those games and just, have a great time. With modding, you're essentially the same with PC. You're essentially able to get any games you want, play the games you want, stuff like that. But I think it's more rewarding going into a shop, browsing around, picking a game, playing it, that sort of thing. And I want to be able to do that with my PSP. So the games I did pick up is in fact Daxter. This game is sick. It's probably the best PSP game out there for sure. It is tied in with the Jak and Daxter trilogy. It's not really a trilogy because it's Jak X, but the franchise. So yeah, great game. And this is not a fan favorite for a lot of people. People do not like this game, but this is the game I grew up playing and is the reason why I'm into Jak and Daxter as a whole. And it is Jak and Daxter, the Lost Frontier. So the model I currently got is in fact the PSP 3000. And that was the last line of the PSP lineage before the PSP Street, which a lot of people don't really want to include that. But when it comes to getting a PSP, people do say go for the 3000. And for the longest time, I promise you guys, when I was like 11 years old, I was literally telling my dad, look, my PSP doesn't work no more. I miss playing on the PSP, stuff like that. I ain't got the time to play, the current gen consoles at the time because my parents wouldn't let me get that. So I was kind of like, I grew up playing the PSP, so come on. It's like cheap. At the time, it was really cheap. And I'm going to talk about the price of how much I paid for this, but it was extremely cheap. And yeah, now, what? A couple years later, more than a couple of years later, I've got myself the PSP. Games run extremely smoothly on this PSP. I've not had a single issue where the game crashed. Then again, I am playing games that aren't really pushing the PSP to its fullest extent. But so far, I've not seen a single moment where I felt like I couldn't play this game. Now, for the price point of this PSP, it is in fact £121 for what I bought it for. And now you're probably asking yourself, why did he pay that much for a PSP when you could probably get one cheaper? Now, I'm silly. I saw this PSP, it looks like it was in mint condition. There's not really much, scratches on the screen, on the back, stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. But yeah, this is in fact a close-up of the PSP. Like I said before, there isn't much scratches on it. You see a bit of scuffs right over here. I think there's some Was it here yet? Right over here, stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't look that bad. Obviously, you can see my fingerprints, obviously being on the screen, stuff like that. But other than that, this PSP is in a really good condition, and nothing. I can't even tell if there's any issues whatsoever. So here's the PSP on. As you can see, everything works perfectly fine. And yeah, for some reason, I think this might be a Japanese PSP because, as you can tell, X should be your select and this should be your cancel. If I was to click on this right here, it should select it, but it doesn't. So if I click on the circle, it does exactly that. And then to cancel that. But it's not a massive deal because I realize that when I play games that are from this region, you can't really see the game. But if it is from this region, I'm able to play the game normally without having to change the controls and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just I think I just picked up. As you can see, there's some yellowing on the screen, stuff like that. I might have to take off the whole thing and then swap it out with a new screen. But other than that, it's not a massive deal. I think if I turn up the brightness, it will be fine. And I've also noticed that there is some bit of like yellowing on the stick, which is quite annoying sort of thing. But it is to be expected since it is not a black PSP. As you can see, more scuff and dirt easier, if that makes sense. Like I said before, the X is select in game. Outside of the game, it's really not. But it's not a massive deal. The game still works perfectly fine. It's gonna take a while. This is where I left off when I last played the game. The load time isn't that bad actually. So yeah, it literally took less than a minute. The game works perfectly fine. And yeah, it's really hard to play whilst recording at the same time. I'm trying to make sure you guys get every single bit of the gameplay, but there's a slight issue when you know, I'm having to play like this. But yeah, like I said before, it's not any issue whatsoever. I think I've done this already. Yep. But yeah, like I said before, the game works perfectly fine. Everything works. All the buttons work. Obviously, there's nothing to do with triangle, but yeah, I think it's really important that we, go back to these older consoles because games are really cheap. It runs really well. You're not gonna have issues with, you know, PlayStation taking away your games, licensing ain't taking your games away. The games are there. The games are easy to be played. You're not having a single issue. And the same goes for a lot of consoles like the PS3, the PS2, the Xbox 360. The original consoles and stuff like that. Because games have been made and it's been pushed on disc. And disc games are really cheap to buy. I mean, I went to CEX the other day, bought a game the other day for about £5. And that's insane. £5 is insane. And I was able to get a game for that price. And I think that's really important that we need to, remember, games are getting more expensive. I'm seeing deluxe edition games going off for like £129 for a game that's gonna be made again the next year. That's insane. So we need to be more mindful that these corporations aren't looking out for us instead of trying to get our money, and that's not fair on us whatsoever. It's no longer about the gamers anymore. It's about the quickest buck sort of thing. So us going back to consoles like this makes so much more sense. I can't understand why we can't understand why gaming on a system like this isn't the ideal way of gaming. Plus, it's portable. I mean, it's in the name, PlayStation Portable. You can take it anywhere. Slide it into your pocket. Simple as that. Call it a day. I think it's so important that we try to preserve physical media. I mean, that's the only way we know for sure that we can own something. And it's so beautiful knowing that you bought the game. If you don't want the game no more, you can sell it, give it to your friend. You can lend it to someone. You have the option. And with PlayStation, there's only one storefront, them. So the only way you can buy games is through them. And games are really expensive. So you're going to lose and it's not a great feeling. Where with physical media, you can go in, buy this game for what, £2, play a game, lend it to someone. You can lend it to someone, give it to someone. Wait, lend it. It's the same thing. You can do whatever you want with the game, essentially. So I do think it's important that we go back to things like the PSP, the 3DS, the Vita, stuff like that, because we own what we buy. I think that's so important. Us gamers, we should be able to buy the game we want, play the game what we want, and know that we can always come back to that game, knowing that it will never be removed, because we spent our money. We have a right. I mean, that makes sense, no? What I can say right now is this right here is your best friend. There's no other reason why you shouldn't want to not pick up the PSP. And I know the Vita can do PSP games through adrenaline and stuff like that, but the games never looked that crisp for me personally. I couldn't get into it because I kept seeing like a weird filter, and I kept messing around seeing which one would, get rid of it. None of them would. Plain PSP games should be played on PSP. The same way you play a VR game on the Vita, 3DS on the 3DS, etc, etc. And these things are cheap. I could have gotten a cheaper PSP, but I didn't. But you guys can do that. You have the choice of doing that. And you have the choice of what games you buy, knowing that the game will stay with you as long as you want the game to stay with you. It's simple as that. I could honestly ramble on so much more about physical media and how much we should preserve it. So honestly, just go get yourself a PSP, pick up some games, and just play. Have a great time. And that's literally all that matters. I think the PSP is so important that we should, look back at and be like, okay, cool. Let me buy that real quick and play some games and, call it a day. So yes, do buy the PSP in 2026. There's not much cons compared to pros. And I don't see why you shouldn't. I mean, go for it. Simple as that. Easy gaming. Don't need to buy a Switch 2. Or, I don't know, one of the new PC handhelds or stuff like that. Just get a PSP cheap, get some games, call it a day. Simple as that.